Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, everyone get into your moment of zen, do your aromatherapy, take whatever time you need to get ready, because we are going to have to talk about the pistol brace rule once again. Now, as I told you when we did our very first video on this rule, that we would continue to compile questions, and as we begin to see more and more questions come up with some frequency, that would give us an idea on videos to do. And we have done a series of videos based upon many of the questions that you, the lawful and responsible gun owner, have nationwide. Well, not to be outdone, we have a lot of other questions that are frequently asked, and they deserve to be answered. So today we're going to kind of go rapid fire fashion and see if we can get right through this. So today, let's spend a few minutes and talk about everything you ever wanted to know about the pistol brace rule, but were afraid to ask. Okay, so the issue we are talking about yet again today is, of course, ATF's new rule on firearms with attached stabilizing braces, or what we call around here the pistol brace rule. Now, in addition to 293 glorious pages of rule-making order, the ATF, always the full-service operation that they are, have published several other documents accompanying the rule to help you, the lawful and responsible gun owner. And one of those documents that they have published, and I should point out they have made numerous changes to it since the first publication, is in fact this little frequently asked question section. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through this today, and this is as these questions and answers sit on February 7th, the day that we're recording this video. We'll go back and routinely check this because I have already tracked a few changes on this. But there's a lot of questions that people are asking as it relates to the implementation of the rule, compliance with this rule, deadlines, and other things. And I want to get some of these questions and answers for you today. Okay, one of the first questions that people ask is, does the ATF have a list of specific braces that qualify in making a pistol into a short-barreled rifle? And that essentially is does ATF have a list where if you just go ahead and put these braces on, you automatically have an SBR? This is ATF's response. No, ATF regulates firearms as defined by the Gun Control Act of 1968 and the National Firearms Act, and therefore, in general, ATF does not regulate accessories such as stabilizing braces. And that is really, really nice. However, let's see, forced reset triggers, bump stocks, wide open triggers, hellfire triggers, solvent traps, suppressors, but I digress. Okay, one of the other more common questions also asked about the implementation of this rule: how do I get a determination if my brace device makes a pistol an SBR? That is, if you for some reason doubt whether or not your firearm actually falls under the purview of this rule, can you get a determination by ATF? Can you do so within the 120 days and get your registration in? That's highly unlikely. But if you wanted to try this, this is what ATF is saying. In addition to ATF's list of commercially available firearms sold with stabilizing braces and common weapon platforms equipped with stabilizing braces that qualify as short barrel rifles, any other firearm equipped with a stabilizing brace or rearward attachment may be submitted to ATF's Firearms and Ammunition Technology Division for classification. Firearms may be submitted to, and you'll see the address right here. So if you in fact wanted to submit your firearm and have ATF make a predetermination, that is the method you would go about doing that. Okay, let's next talk about compliance issues and what it takes to comply if you are an FFL, an SOT, or just an average Joe like you and me. And let's start at the end there. Let's talk about average citizens. How do we comply with this rule? If we want to comply, what do we do? Well, there are 5 options. And really, when you think about it, there's 4 options, and one of them has subcomponent A and B. Number 1, we can destroy this firearm. Number 2, we can surrender this firearm. Number 3, we can reconfigure the firearm. And reconfiguration can be done one of 2 ways. We could remove the shorter barrel, add a barrel which is at least 16 inches in length, and now we are outside the purview of any statutory definition of a short-barreled rifle. The other thing we can do is we can remove the stabilizing brace such that it cannot be reattached. So that's essentially options 3A and 3B. And then option 4 is you can go through the amnesty registration. If you are an FFL non-SOT, you will have the exact same options as everybody else that we have previously discussed. If, however, you are an FFL SOT and you want to comply with this rule, you will use an ATF Form 2 for registration of these firearms, not a Form 1. So remember that if you are an FFL SOT, you will be using ATF Form 2. Okay, let's talk about foreign-made firearms. And there was a big to-do out here in the YouTuberverse about foreign-made firearms. I think people got a little overzealous in how they read the rule. We ended up doing this video here and tried to throw a little caution into the wind. The question that we most routinely are seeing: I possess a pistol which was imported and then subsequently equipped with a stabilizing brace. Does 18 U.S.C. section 922R apply to my firearm? And the ATF gave a very long answer to this question in this FAQ section. I'm going to only give you portions of it, but the bottom line is that if you have a foreign-made firearm with an attached stabilizing brace, you have every one of the same options as anyone else does with a domestically made firearm. ATF's position on this is, no, section 922R in relevant part makes it unlawful to assemble from imported parts a semi-automatic rifle that is otherwise not importable. Accordingly, a person with an imported pistol that was subsequently equipped with a stabilizing brace will have the same options as anyone else under the final rule. Should that person choose to register the firearm, no further modification of the firearm with domestic parts is required. Okay, and then also speaking of reconfiguration, many of you asked, once I get my Form 1 approved, can I take the stabilizing brace off and go ahead and put a shoulder stock on it? And the answer is, yes, you can. In fact, once it's an approved SBR, the world is your oyster. This is the exact question that ATF fielded and their answer. Yes, the firearm is registered as an SBR, and you can change out the brace device or stock for a different brace or stock. You do not need to contact ATF NFA because changing the brace stock does not change the configuration of the SBR. However, if the length of the firearm has changed, you will need to notify the NFA division. And then, of course, if you have, in fact, registered your item as an SBR, it's been approved, and you decide, I want to reconfigure this thing back to something that takes it outside the purview of the NFA. Can I do that? And do I have to notify ATF if I do it? The answer to that question is, it is not a requirement to remove your SBR from the NFRTR. However, ATF highly recommends you notify the Government Services Branch of the National Firearms Act Division to remove the firearm from the NFRTR registry. All NFRTR updates should be emailed to, and then there's this email address right there for you. Okay, moving along, tax forbearance. As we know, if we are registering these firearms within this 120-day window, we theoretically get to do so tax-free. Does that mean on your first firearm, or how many firearms can you, in fact, actually register under the amnesty registration? The answer, according to ATF, is the tax forbearance only pertains to the firearms with attached stabilizing brace in your possession at the time the final rule is published. There is no limit on how many you may register, but owners in possession of these types of SBRs must register within 120 days from the date of publication in the final register. So if you were to accumulate any of these firearms post-January 31st, technically those do not qualify for amnesty registration. Any firearms that we had prior to the publication of the rule, January 31st, 2023, whether you have 1, 5, 25, 55, it does not matter. All of those can be registered tax-free. Okay, let's talk about the stabilizing braces themselves. You take a stabilizing brace off a firearm. Do you have to destroy it or can you sell it? This is what ATF's answer is. ATF does not regulate the sale of firearm accessories. So apparently they're saying that you can, and I want you to remember that. ATF does not regulate the sale of firearm accessories unless, of course, it's a suppressor, a rare breed trigger, a forced reset trigger, a wide open trigger, a Hellfire trigger, or any of the other things that ATF has regulated, like bump stocks in the last few years. But we digress. Some of you asked this question: is the stabilizing brace an item itself that needs to be registered with the ATF? The answer to that question is no. A stabilizing brace is an accessory, and ATF does not regulate accessories. However, a firearm equipped with a stabilizing brace may be subject to registration if it is an SBR because it is designed, redesigned, made, or remade and intended to be fired from the shoulder as described by the amended definition of rifle in the Code of Federal Regulations and has a barrel less than 16 inches or an overall length of less than 26 inches. And then, of course, another question is, well, can I take that stabilizing brace off of one firearm and put it on another one? Remember, ATF says they don't regulate stabilizing braces. The answer to this question is, a stabilizing brace may be removed and attached to another firearm, but all NFA requirements apply if attaching such stabilizing brace configures the weapon as an NFA firearm. Translation, yeah, you could take it from one firearm, put it on another one, but you may have disassembled a short barrel rifle to turn around and assemble a new short barrel rifle. So that is something you need to be cognizant of. For those of you who have disabilities, we did a video all about this. We basically said that ATF candidly doesn't care about that. Do you have to go through all of this Form 1 amnesty registration even though you qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act? Well, the answer, unfortunately, is yes, you do, and this is how ATF puts it. Yes, if a firearm with a stabilizing brace is an SBR, it needs to be registered within the 120 days from the date of publication in the Federal Register. Okay, let's talk about transfers or sales. One of the more common questions is, can an FFL sell you a firearm with an attached stabilizing brace during this 120-day window? That is it legal to sell you one? The answer is yes, sort of. This is how ATF puts it. If the attachment of the stabilizing brace to the firearm would make it a short barrel rifle, the firearm must be registered in the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record prior to transfer. Thus, the FFL must register the SBR through an E-Form 1 and then further transfer on an ATF Form 4. So if it falls under the purview of this rule, what they're saying is that an FFL has to turn it into an NFA item by filing a Form 1. Once that is approved, they can then sell it to you through a Form 4. Okay, some question about constructive possession and further taxation. Number one, does ATF consider any firearm that falls under their purview of this rule to be contraband once the 120 days have come and gone? I'm not even going to have to show you the answer. The answer is hell yes, they do. Number two, can you continue to possess a pistol and an unattached stabilizing brace? And this is where we're getting into the whole area of constructive possession. And candidly, ATF will not give us a particularly good answer. And when you look at the case law on constructive possession, you can understand why. ATF's position on you continuing to hang on to a stabilizing brace is an NFA firearm need not be assembled to be regulated as such. Whether a person may be in constructive possession of an NFA firearm depends on the facts of a particular case. Okay, and then one of the questions is, what are the penalties if I get caught with an unlawful short-barreled rifle? The answer is it's a felony. It is punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. One of the most important and frequent questions we get is, if I register this within the 120 days, but then that 120 days comes and goes, and I haven't got my approved Form 1, am I still in lawful possession? I can assure you that this is going to happen to just about everybody that does this amnesty registration, and the answer is as follows. Prior to and after the expiration of the 120-day tax forbearance, can I continue to possess my SBR equipped with a stabilizing brace if I have timely submitted my application to register my firearm? Answer, yes, but registrants should maintain proof of submission as evidence of continued lawful possession. And then finally, and this is really important for some of you who live in some states where the rules are really, really strict about short barrel rifles, because what you are doing now by doing an amnesty Form 1 registration is you are converting what was called at one time an AR pistol into a short barrel rifle. That means it is federally regulated and recognized as a short barrel rifle. Now, if you reside in a state where possession of short barrel rifles are not allowed, that is, possession of short barrel rifles is unlawful activity, ATF has specifically stated that they will not approve a Form 1 for a short barrel rifle from any state that does not permit the lawful possession of those items. And then finally, and this is really, really, really important, we're going to do a separate video on this, and this is about markings, which is once your Form 1 is approved, do you have to go back and re-engrave that firearm similar to what you do with other NFA items? And the answer in this case, in this very limited case, is no, you don't, okay? And that's really important because I've been talking to a lot of people who are saying that the FFLs are going to want them to re-engrave an item that they registered under an amnesty registration Form 1. This is ATF's position on this. If the SBR equipped with a stabilizing brace is registered within the 120-day tax forbearance period, the possessor is allowed to adopt the markings on the firearm. The maker's markings exception is only applicable to firearms that are registered pursuant to the final rule. If the firearm is a personally made firearm, the possessor must mark in accordance with 27 CFR 478.92 prior to submitting the E-Form 1. So the bottom line is this. If you have a firearm with an attached stabilizing brace that is already serialized, that you then register through an amnesty E-Form 1, once that Form 1 is approved, you do not need to re-engrave it. However, if you are doing an amnesty E-Form 1 registration on a personally made firearm, untraceable firearm without a serial number, in those instances, it cannot be registered until it is first affixed with a serial number. Listen, I hope that answers a lot of the questions that you may have about ATF's new pistol brace rule. We will continue to monitor all the questions we get in the comment sections below, and as we begin to routinely get the same question over and over, we know that's a video that you guys will need to see. In the meantime, if you have any other questions about the pistol brace rule, anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys know the drill by now. You can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, in the meantime, let's remember, part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.